Hello book lovers, welcome back or welcome to Nakat's Bookish Cafe. Whether we want it to be or not, it is time to do our TBR for the month of February. While I'm obviously filming this a little bit early here in January, it is still crazy to think that the first month of this year has already kind of just ran by us. It was definitely a eventful month, and not in the best way if you're keeping up with the news and all the shenanigans that our president is up to, but hopefully things get better. Maybe this is rock bottom, probably not, but we gotta stay optimistic and hope for the best. That being said, reading wise, January wasn't that great for me either. That being said, I am really excited for all the books that I have picked out to read here in February. I'm hoping it's a really great reading month for me. Am I being optimistic considering this is the shortest month in the year? Definitely. So if you're new to my channel, I do have a TBR game that I play. However, this year I've decided to only play it every other month, so I will usually not be playing it during even months. February is an even month. It's the second month of the year, so I am not playing the TBR game this month. I have a few books that I have selected that I would like to read. I decided on these months I would either choose another way to select books that I want to read, or I would mood read, and this month is kind of a mood read vibe. So I have a few books that I want to talk about. First, I am planning on doing a vlog this month, so I'll be talking about the 3 books I'll be reading there. Because of this vlog, 2 of the books that I'll be reading for that are on KU, so I have a couple other KU books that I'm interested in reading, just because anytime I get KU, I like to read about 3 to 4 books just to really make it worth that money that I am spending. I do have a couple of library books that I would like to get to. I then have a book club book because I have started a in-person book club, and this is our first month. So one of our members has selected the book because we are going to be taking turns selecting a book every month, and so I'll talk about that selection. And then finally, of course, we will be choosing a book out of my challenge cup to see what we round this month off with. And I do also have a nonfiction that I'm currently working on, which I believe will go ahead and get pushed into February, that I will bring up real quick as well. So lots of books to talk about. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the books that I will be reading for the vlog that I'm hoping to do. So this is a vlog that I promised when I did my winter TBR. I kind of went back and forth. I almost dropped this vlog, but then, I kind of decided like, no, I do want to go ahead and do it this month. And that is my Phantom of the Opera vlog. I am a big fan of the Phantom of the Opera. However, I have never actually read the book. So this is by Gaston Leroux. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I will say that I will be basing my synopsis off of the movie adaptation as well as the opera. I have had the honor of seeing the opera live here in Seattle. It was very well done, and I've seen the movie a few times and I listen to the soundtrack all the time. I am a huge fan of the Phantom of the Opera, have been for many years. I always say that that movie, along with like Shrek, is why I'm a bigger fan of like an enemies to lovers kind of psycho romance, monster romance vibe. Yes, you can thank the Phantom for that. That being said, in this book, our main character, I believe, is Christine, and she was the daughter of, I want to say, a violinist at the opera house. However, when she is very young, he ends up passing away, and she is kind of taken under the wing of the dance instructor, because the dance instructor, she has a daughter around Christine's age. And so Christine and her friend are kind of brought up in the world of ballet, and opera. However, Christine also has a great passion for singing, and she is being taught by someone she calls the angel of music. Before her father passed away, he told her that he would send her an angel of music to watch over her when she is gone, and she believes that this mentor of hers is that angel. However, we know it is actually the Phantom of the Opera, also known as the ghost of the opera, also known as a murderer at times. Things get complicated when Christine is given the opportunity to be the lead prima donna after a accident befalls the other prima donna, and a old friend of hers known as Raoul, at least in the movies, approaches her with romantic interest, and the Phantom is not happy about that. So I am really interested to see how the book is. I really hope that I love it, but you know, we'll see. I mean, one of the amazing things about the opera is the music, and that's obviously not gonna be in the book, but I'm still excited. All right, so aside from reading just The Phantom of the Opera, I am hoping to read a couple of retellings. I've over the years read a couple of them. I think 3 of them. 2 of them I've been less impressed by. One of them I thought was relatively decent, but I have collected more and more over the years, and I figured, you know, now was a good time to read some of them. Both of these are available on KU, at least last time I checked, so fingers crossed they're still there. The first one is going to be The Hells of Notre Dame. This one, obviously based off of the title, is also a retelling of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I would say based off of the synopsis that it seems more strongly a retelling of that than The Phantom of the Opera, but it says that it is a retelling of The Phantom of the Opera to some degree, and this is a sapphic romance, so it is queer, and that is why I am prioritizing it. Essentially, we are following someone who lives in Notre Dame, and she has a run-in with Esmeralda, and she tries to tell herself to forget about this woman. However, one day it seems that the halls of Notre Dame become Esmeralda's prison, and so they are trapped there together, and they just are kind of forced to spend time together, and they clearly have an attraction between each other. I'm not really sure what exactly is going to happen, like what the problem is here, but all the same, I'm excited to go ahead and give it a try. She does mention the phrase, "Our Lord works in mysterious ways." Is she actually talking about like God, because Notre Dame is a church, or is this Lord figure kind of like the Phantom and he is somehow controlling some sort of magic about who can enter and leave Notre Dame? Not really sure, but all the same, we'll give it a go, and fingers crossed I enjoy it. The next retelling is actually a male-male romance. I chose the 2 queer retellings for this one, and this one is called Masquerade by Joel Abernathy, I believe. And this one I would say is more of a exact retelling to a degree, at least where we can definitely tell that it is a Phantom of the Opera retelling. We have a dark, brooding character who has fallen for someone he calls his angel, and he is really struggling with whether he should let his angel go or if he should pull his angel into the darkness with him. So the synopsis for this one was a little bit more vague, but you know, I love me a male-male romance, and it sounds like it's gonna be a little bit darker, so I am hoping to have a good time with it. Up next, like I mentioned, I had a couple of other KU books that I would like to read. The next 2 KU books, as well as the 2 books from the library, are all by Black authors in celebration of Black History Month. So the first one is going to be Just for the Cameras by Viana Oniomo, and I hope I said their last name correctly. I always kind of fumble that, but this is an author that I have put on my TBR before. Their book Sweetest Vengeance, Sweet Vengeance, or something along those lines. I've had on 2 separate TBRs. I think the last one was in December, and I just never get to it. So I decided to put another one of their books that is also on KU and give this one a try because I'm actually really excited about this one. This one is a polyamorous story. I also feel like the cover is just giving Valentine's Day. We have the tattoos of like the roses and all the red. So in this book, we are following a couple. This is a male female relationship. We have a couple and they are, I guess you would say, sex workers, but they seem to be working more like online and doing like films and stuff like that. And they have a roommate who they both are really attracted to, and they're like, man, if we could only get him to like do one show with us, we just got to get a taste of it, get it out of our system. And then one day they are performing and the roommate actually ends up walking in on them and they're like, come and join us. And he's like, okay. And they end up having like so much fun and care for him so much that they actually decide that no, one time will not get it out of their system and they would like him to join their relationship. So this sounds like it's gonna be a lot of fun. It does sound like it's gonna be on the smuttier side, but I've heard good things about it. And I think that right now I just need fun, smutty, low brain cell amounts required, a few critical thinking skills required, reads, and that is why you'll see quite a bit of romance on here. All right, next KU book is going to be Phoenix by N. Slafer. I hope I'm saying that correct. The font that the author used, for some reason my eyes are kind of like, I hope I'm reading the right letters. So I believe it's Slafer. So I was, you know, kind of looking through all of my KU books that were written by Black authors. And then I came across this one and I was like, if I want a good time, what better than a male romance? I don't think I've ever come across that. Like polyamorous, you know, usually it's kind of like a mix of characters, but 4 dudes, I'm like, all right, we'll see how this goes. So this also seems to be kind of a psychopath male romance, which I read a psychopath romance last month and I had a really great time. So I was like, you know what, let's go with it. Let's keep up with that momentum. In this book, we are following I believe he's a journalist, and he has, over the course of the last 3 years, broken off 3 different relationships. He feels like he has this darkness within him, and those 3 different relationships kind of gave him what he wanted. It satisfied that dark voice inside of him, and that kind of scared him, so he left them. Unfortunately, today he has 3 interviews, and I'm guessing it's gonna be the interviews for those 3 exes. And it seems like there's some sort of dark force within the city. This is contemporary, so it's probably more of like a criminal force than like a magical force. But I'm interested to figure out if these 3 men are the evil force and he's gonna join them, or if they're more like vigilantes and they're gonna use this darkness within them to kick some criminal butt. But either way, I have a feeling it's gonna be a very interesting time, and I've never really heard anyone talk about this book. It was just a book that I stumbled across because I was specifically looking for books on KU by Black authors, because a while ago I had very few of them. And this one I found and I was like, that sounds right up my alley. So we're gonna go for it. All right, so those are all the KU books. Let's go ahead and get into the 2 library books. The first one I'm so excited about. I just picked it up from the library today, and that is going to be One of Us Knows by Alyssa Cole. This is the author of When No One Is Watching, which is up there on one of my favorite shelves. Of course, library books and ring lights don't go well together, but this is literally the 2nd lowest rated book on on my want to read list in Goodreads right now. So people are not enjoying this book. However, I was watching someone's favorite books of the year and this was one of them. So I think this book is for a certain group of people, and I have loved Alyssa Cole before for thrillers, and When No One Is Watching is also really lowly rated, so I don't really trust the general population's, opinion on her books. I've been waiting for her to drop another thriller, and in this book we are following Ken, and she has a dissociative identity disorder, and she used to be a historical preservationist, and one day she got the diagnosis, but she also had a bit of a breakdown, and that kind of derailed her career. She has actually not been in the driver's seat of her body for quite a while, so dormant for years. Her other personalities have actually been running her life for a few years, and she wakes up one day to find that they have become kind of the caretakers of this old castle, this old manor. She's like, I don't know what we're here, but sure, let's go for it. Unfortunately, it seems like a storm is heading their way, and a bunch of unexpected, dangerous guests have arrived, including a man who was responsible for the derailment of her career, and things get worse when he turns up dead. And so her and her multiple personalities got to get the gang together like Scooby-Doo and figure out who did it because they are the most obvious suspect. So I am super excited. I mean, usually this kind of disorder is used as a twist where they're like, surprise, yeah, she actually committed the crime, but she didn't know about it because it was her other personality, or you thought you were reading from two different points of view, but it was actually just one person. So knowing that the character has this disorder from the very beginning, I think is going to be a really new take on a thriller featuring dissociative identity disorder. So I am super excited about this book, even though it has not had the best of ratings, because I trust Alyssa Cole when it comes to this genre. The next library book, I'm actually gonna get the ebook version because that's all they have, and this is Shades and Shadow by N.K. Jemisin. This is the final novella for the Inheritance trilogy. I actually think that this is, I think they were saying it was like 0.5, 0.15, 0.25 or something. So it's actually taking place before the third book. So I feel like I'm kind of reading the series out of order. But that being said, I am still really excited to check this out. It's less than 100 pages. It'll help me finally finish the series, which I have absolutely been loving. Do I know what the specific collection of short stories is about? No, I've pretty much been going into the series relatively blind, and especially considering how short this is, that is what I'm going to do. Again, the general synopsis, I guess if you want to just like know a smidge about it, is that we are living in a world where the mortals interact very closely with their gods and the children of their gods, and that can lead to some good things and some bad things. So I will be really interested to see what N.K. Jemisin does with these short stories, and fingers crossed I like them as much as all the other books in this series. Real quick, the nonfiction that I'm currently working on, I don't think I'll finish it by the end of the month because I'm trying to prioritize my fiction book over this, even though I'm enjoying this nonfiction book more than the fiction book, but we're trying to be responsible here. And that is going to be the transgender issue, An Argument for Justice by Shauna Fay. This deals with the trans experience in Britain, which obviously I don't live in Britain, but still it is a relatively relevant issue in the world as a whole. I am already a little over 35 pages into it and am really enjoying it. It definitely is not a feel-good read. The treatment of transgender people in Britain and here in America is not great, and it's not really improving at the rate that the treatment of other members of the LGBTQ plus community is improving, which is very sad, especially here in America, things seem to be moving backwards more so than forward. The trans community, especially here in America, has been harassed nonstop, especially by the far right. But unfortunately, there are also people on the left who don't accept the trans community. There are people like within the gay, lesbian, bi community that don't accept them. There's a lot of transphobia even within the queer community, which is really upsetting. I myself am a big supporter of trans people, always have been. It never occurred to me not to support them, and I'm very thankful that I grew up in such a way where that was what I was taught. And I know that not everyone was taught that, so I think a book like this is really important. What is really disturbing in here is the role of the media. They are currently talking about how pretty much every day there is some story about trans people. Like all of a sudden the media, that's like all they're talking about, and they're not talking about them in a good way. It was like the media was like, who do we hate on this century? Trans people. So that definitely helped move things back a lot, especially spread misinformation. Books like this are trying to counterbalance all of the negativity and falsified information that is being presented about the trans community. So if you are a supporter, an ally, if you are someone who is on the fence, if you're unsure about like transness at all, I think just based off the few pages that I've read so far that this is going to be a pretty digestible story, even for someone who's relatively new to this topic. So I will continue to work on this, and I'm sure I'll have a good time. I'll learn a lot. It'll distress me, but it is an important read. All right, and then going into the book that I will be reading for my book club, we have Dungeons and Drama by Christy Boyce. This is a young adult contemporary romance. I feel like I heard about it before. I myself don't play Dungeons and Dragons. The woman who selected this book does play Dungeons and Dragons, so I'm not surprised that she's intrigued by the story. It sounds really cute. I'm on hold for the audiobook. I have not read any audiobooks yet this year, so this will probably be my first one, but I do pretty good with reading contemporary as an audiobook just because there's not like a ton of world building or anything, or oftentimes even a lot of plot that I have to keep track of. So essentially in the story, we are following a young high school girl, and her dream is to become a director for Broadway, and she thinks that something that'll look really good on her resume and help her with this goal is to bring back their spring, I think it was spring musical, because it seems that her school got rid of that. However, at the beginning of the book, she does something to get herself grounded, and she needs to spend her days after school working at her father's game shop, which really interferes with her ability to convince the school to bring back the spring musical. So she makes a deal with one of the young employees there. I believe he's a fellow high schooler. I hope so. And she tells him that if he covers her shift, she will go ahead and kind of flirt with him in front of his game girl crush so that she gets jealous and hopefully initiates a relationship with him. However, she eventually finds out that in order for her to do this, she needs to join them for their D&D games. She's a little reluctant to do that because she's never done it before, but as she starts to play, she starts to realize just what a great time this role-playing game is. And on top of that she doesn't actually have to role play that much when it comes to flirting with this guy. So I think it's gonna be a fun time. The audiobook is only 8 hours long, so it shouldn't be too hard to get that done, and it'll ease me back into listening to audiobooks better than starting with like a 25-hour audiobook or anything like that. All right, guys, so it is time for the challenge cup. So if you are new to my channel, essentially I have 11 books in here, 10 now since I selected one last month, and I pull one every month from January through November. In this are books that I am wanting to read, but I'm also a little bit uncertain about, a little bit intimidated about. So I went ahead and put them in here. I have a video where I talk about all the books that I put in here. So if you want to check that out, I will go ahead and link that up above. So here's our little demon cup. Please ignore how terrible my nails look right now. They are recovering from me having gel nails for a while, and that always leaves them not looking so great. So they keep breaking, which is really annoying. All right, we're gonna go with this one. I'm really scared. I went to Value Village today and I found and bought a copy of The Master and Margarita, which I'm hoping was not a big sign that I was going to get this book this month, because I don't want to read it this month. What does that say? Translated? Oh, Human Acts by Kong Han. I can't even read my own writing. Is that an M or is it an N? I always turn my M's and N's, and let me check on her name. All right, so this book is Human Acts by Han Kong. I don't know why on my sheet I flipped her first and last name, but I did. Each of these books that are in the jar are for a specific category. This is a translated book. I'm really excited to get to this. I believe a couple years ago this was actually a 12 books recommended by 12 friends that I never got to. So I put it on here, or I was happy to put it on here, and finally read this pretty highly acclaimed story. It seems to be taking place during a violent student uprising in South Korea, and I believe that a young child, maybe even, ends up dying during these riots, and we are following different perspectives of people that were somehow involved in all of this. So I'll have to go ahead and grab this from my library, but it is one of the shorter books, so maybe I'll be able to squeeze it in this month. Guys, so those are all the books that I am hoping to read this month. There's quite a few, especially considering how short this month is. We'll see how it goes. I mean, this isn't like a solid TBR the way that my TBR game is. This really is more like a grouping of books that I can pick from as I feel. I will say for sure we're going to be doing the Phantom of the Opera books, but other than that, I'm not really sure which books I will be prioritizing. I will say most likely at least one of the KU books as well, because like I said, I like to read at least 3 of them. So I would love to know if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. I would also love to know what books you guys are planning to read here in the month of February. As always, guys, thank you so much for supporting my channel by watching my videos, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!